Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the transit North Node conjunct one's natal Saturn. Now, when we're talking about the North Node in transit in astrology, it can often be about issues one may have to confront, address, and deal with. It's something that you may have avoided for a prolonged period, and it may be something that's just simply inevitable, and there may not be any choice but to deal with it at the time when you have this transit. Now, the thing is, when we're talking about transit North Node hitting one's natal Saturn, this could be about having to address some restrictions or limitations one may have in their life. If this falls in the sixth house, it could be physical ones, or even the first house of the physical body. If you have this, say if you have a transit North Node conjunct your natal Saturn and Sagittarius in your sixth house of health in your chart, that may manifest in addressing issues or having to confront issues that may be something of a health restriction, and or health related issues, debilitations I should say, that may involve perhaps the thighs or the liver, or anything that could be the sciatic nerve, anything that could be Sagittarius related. Keep in mind that Saturn can also be about chronic debilitations. Now, it may also be about confronting or addressing issues associated with hard labor, working laboriously. It might be, some cases, it may be about working too hard, working too laboriously, which could have obviously have an effect on your health and have an adverse effect on your life in other ways, such as not maybe making time for your fun and enjoyment in your life. It could be matters pertaining to the career or the father in some cases. If you have Saturn in your 12th house in your natal chart and you're experiencing this transit, it could be about limitations with the father, or it could be something that even the loss of a father in some isolated cases. Remember, the 12th house is the house of restrictions and limitations. It's the house of endings, and Saturn is associated with the father. This could also be about issues you may have to deal with that might pertain to one's responsibilities, things that you have to do, duties. It could even be fears in some cases. I have Saturn in my 12th house in my natal chart. This could be manifest in some cases in having to address the fear of the unknown. I have it in Taurus, the sign of money, and maybe there's some subconscious fear of me maybe making more money than what I'm currently making, as odd as that may sound, or even having qualities of certain persistence and perseverance, because those are the qualities associated with Taurus. And also, Taurus could be associated, you could say, with love, because it is ruled by Venus. So there might be some, self-sabotaging thing associated with that. Maybe that plays a role in why I don't have a significant other, and that could be something that I may have to address when the time comes. I'm going to have this transit in around a year and a half, I believe, when the transit's going to hit my Saturn. So it should be very interesting how that pans out for me. Now, also could be matters with authority or discipline that need to be dealt with. It could even be physical related matters. I mean, Saturn is associated with the bones, the knees, and the joints, and it can be some issues associated with that may need to be dealt with. I have Saturn conjunct. Saturn is in my 12th house, yes, but it's also conjunct my ascendant, and I have had some issues with my knees to some degree, and also too, Saturn is associated with sorrow as well, despondency. So if there's something in your life that might be causing you to feel somewhat depressed, not necessarily the clinical depression, but making you feel somewhat melancholy or sad, it could be some kind of inhibition or some restriction. This could be the time where you may you feel there's no choice but to actually deal with it. Now, let's say you're having this transit in Taurus. This could pan out as perhaps working, perhaps being unflappable, working on being unflappable, composed under pressure. It could be something. Now in my case, I have this in Taurus, again, Taurus in the Saturn, Taurus in the 12th house. And also it could be, given that it's in the 12th house, in my case, it could be doing such in solitude and seclusion. Also too, when you're talking about the North Node in transit, it can also be about about your timing. The timing at this time, a positive note with this transit, you might be about impeccable timing connected with mentoring, maybe a position of authority, something with business or one's career. But it also matters with chronic debilitations. You probably wonder, well, how is that positive or auspicious? Well, it might be something where you're actually able to find somebody that could really help you deal with something, find the right person or doctor or whoever it may be to help you actually deal with it, whether it's a surgical procedure or some physical therapy or what have you. Now, if it's in Libra, it could be matters with the lower back or kidney issues. Now, could be about finding that right doctor for those matters. If it's Saturn in Libra, because remember, Saturn can also be connected with chronic illnesses, debilitations. Another thing too is that when you're talking about the North Node in transit, it can also be about one's future and destiny. This could be a time where you may be dealing with, it could be something where you feel directed, or there's some future or something you feel is preordained associated with a business or a career. Say if this falls in the zodiac sign Cancer, it might be something connected with the home, real estate, where it could be some kind of renovation, siding, working in laundry, doing something in restaurant work, cooking. It could be a position as a home caregiver. Now, the North Node in transit can also be about the development of qualities that are associated with the planet, the sign, and the house it resides in your natal chart. Now, let's say, for example, you have transit North Node in Gemini, make a conjunction to your Saturn in Gemini in your 7th house in your natal chart. Well, this may manifest in getting perhaps structure and discipline, which would be Saturn, in your communications, which is Gemini, and in the 7th house, your relationships. And it's also could be about manifesting building very consistent, which is Saturn, shrewdness, street smarts, which is Gemini, to deal and combat open adversaries, which is the 7th house. Now, another thing is that when you're talking about having a transit from the North Node to Saturn, it could be really about where your future and destiny, it's things that maybe you feel preordained, maybe about maturation. It could be a time where you're forced to perhaps grow up at this time, and something needs, this is something that may need to be done, and it's unavoidable or inevitable. Now, say if you have this transit in Libra, this might be done through your relationships. If it's in Aquarius, it could be through your friendships, maybe getting involved with groups, clubs, or organizations. It might be tied in with your aspirations or goals. And it could also, I mean, if it's Saturn, if it's Capricorn, it could be through older people, or maybe the father. It might be something by just being you're forced to really be more mature, but doing so through much consistent laborious efforts. If you have Saturn in Capricorn, and this is and another thing too. It's also, when you're talking about this transit, it could also manifest in being directed to work within parameters and provisions. Say if you have this transit, you have Saturn in Cancer, and you have the transit North Node making a conjunction to it. This could be about maybe some kind of home partition or extension on the home that is approved by the government, by the authority that needs to be approved by, making sure that this is lawful. Now, also too, it could be about a time too when somebody has this transit, and say they are of older age, if they're like over 60 or 65 or what have you, This could be a time where you may be dealing, it might be coming to terms dealing with older age. If it's it could be some issues that may be coming along with it that are physical. Say if this is in Capricorn, it could be something with the knees, the bones, the joints. It could be some kind of bone deterioration, anything that could be Capricorn related. I mean, if it's something with, if it's in Gemini, it could be something with the arms, the hands. It could be like carpal tunnel. It could be something where you might, some kind of arthritis in the hands, perhaps. So those are some ways that this could manifest and pan out. In anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.